And welcome back to another episode of the Bull and The Cub podcast. I'm your host, David.
And I'm the co-host, also David, David's dad. All right, so today we're going to talk about what is a tariff, T-A-R-I-F-F. We see this in the news lately a lot, and we want to talk about how it impacts the market. But what is a tariff, David?
Well, a tariff is a tax a country imposes on things imported from another country. So basically, if you're buying a apple, sure, let's go with an apple,
yeah.
from in a bunch of them from another country. Well, whatever country you live in, they're going to tax the other country, not the buyer though, which is important because then the other country, they're just going to be like, okay, we need to make the same amount of money, so we're just going to make it cost more.
Right. That's a really good point. And so there's goods and bad things, right, with tariffs, arguably. On the one hand, tariff can be a source of revenue for your government. So we'll just think about the U.S. imposing tariffs. So the U.S. can make money by taxing goods that come into the country, and it could arguably create a fairer playing field if another country can normally sell things cheaper than American companies, and then because maybe the other country might use cheaper labor or have cheaper materials, and so it's evening the playing field so American companies can compete better. But on the other hand, as you know, it's going to now cost more money because what's the other country going to do, David? We put a tax on their product that they're selling to us. Well, are they going to keep prices the same, or are they going to raise prices to account for that tax?
Like I said before, they're just going to make the prices go up, which will make the item or whatever it is, let's go with the apple, more expensive, and therefore less people are going to buy it.
Right, exactly. And so, to use your point, it's now the price is going to go up. Let's say the apple is used to make apple pie here in the United States. So a manufacturer is making apple pie here. Now his apples cost more money, so he's going to raise the price of his apple pie. So what tariffs really are equating to is higher prices for what's goods that are being sold in the United States. That's the concern. And what happens if companies are having to charge higher prices? Are people going to buy more or less of it?
People are going to buy less of it, which is the reason why, in the first place, they don't charge really high prices.
Right. So that's the overall market concern is, as prices go up because of tariffs being imposed, are people going to buy less of it? Are U.S. manufacturers or companies going to be making less money and less revenue because of that? So that's the lesson today. But let's talk about what's going on in the news, because we just finished the month of February, and February as a whole saw a large drop in the overall market. So talk to me, David, about this. Why are we seeing some of these big drops? Because normally we talk about individual companies and why they go up and down, but we're talking about across the entire market is down in February. Why is that?
Well, the reason all these companies are going down, and it's like most of the market is going down, is because of, one, the tariffs, and two, a bunch of different things, including the Pentagon, their budget got reduced, which means whatever companies, Palantir, for example, worked for, got money from the Pentagon, they're gonna, lose money.
Right, that's a really good point. And that is something that affects, possibly one company, but also many companies, right? I mean, the tariffs, even if they're not imposed, are going to cause the market in general to be afraid and investors to be afraid that consumers will spend less money. So they're getting ahead of it even before the tariffs are imposed and pulling money out of the market. But to your point, I like to do the analogy with like a shopping center, right? When you talk about companies like Palantir and some of these other companies that have the government as a big customer of theirs, when they start losing money or have less revenue because they lose a government contract, it impacts not just them, but the market as a whole, because there's certain companies, especially the larger companies, especially the tech companies too, as they go down, then as a whole, investors become sour on the entire market, and the entire market comes down. So a few companies can impact the entire market, much like at a shopping center, right? If you go shop at Ralph's or Vaughn's, and if they were to leave the shopping center, well, all the stores in the shopping center would be impacted, right? Because the main anchor store went down. And so if the big companies start doing bad, it impacts the entire market as a whole.
Also, I have another part to this. If, for example, if Vaughn's and Ralph's were right next to each other, the Ralph's got closed down, the Vaughn's would actually make more money because its competitor is gone. Which is kind of what happened in the stock market, but not exactly. NVIDIA, they had a great report and stuff, so their stock went up. That also made a lot of other companies go down because, they basically, beat the other companies, you could say.
That's a really good point. There's a lot of variables that are moving here, right? Your point is, hey, look, as one company does really well, its competitors might come down as doing and do worse because, again, people are allocating more money and more investment into the company that's, with all companies being similarly situated, and similar types of companies, the one that's performing the best. Great. So are we anything else on that? Or do you want to get back to our recap of our game from last week?
I guess we can recap the game.
Yeah, it wasn't a great week for you. So just to recap, I had Domino's. Domino's had a great week. It had an earnings report coming out and had quite a dip before what was supposed to be a good earnings report. So Domino's went up from $4.62 a share to $4.89. So I had a nice week. You had Palantir, and you were trying to get into Palantir when it was low?
I was trying to get into Palantir when it's low. But when more things happened, to the market, it continued going down. Honestly, I still feel like it's a good stock because the only reason it really went down was because of the entire market. It first went down on its own, and it second went down on the entire market. So now it's much lower. It went from, 120 something around?
Down to 97.
Down to 97 last week, and now it's down to 85 this week.
Yeah, but you're still in a buy situation with Palantir. You're trying to find the bottom, right? And you're trying to time it, but you think we're getting near the bottom if we're not there already. All right, so this week, who wants to go first for this week's game?
I'll let you go first.
All right. So this week, this is an exciting week because I call it earnings report week because you got a lot of companies, popular companies with their earnings reports coming out.
Do you want to talk about your Domino's stock?
I was just noting that it went up from $4.62 to $4.89, so that was about a 7% increase and quite a jump over the course of a week. So that was a good call on my part. One of the things I like to do is look for companies that have earnings report coming out, and if I think it's going to be a positive earnings report, then that's something I'd like to invest in, and so I can take advantage of that earnings report bump. And so that's what's going on this week. That's the premise for my pick this week. A lot of earnings reports coming out. And normally, with kind of a lot of this tariff talk and the recent inflation, you'd think that companies, sales numbers and revenue numbers are down in terms of consumer products. But I've been focused on Costco and Target because while normally you kind of stay away from some of these companies, Costco, I think, is basically recession-proof. It's because, if you go to Costco right now, even with prices up, everybody's flocking to Costco. It just seems to be one of these companies where it is on people's list of necessities, basically, and they keep the price of eggs and certain things at such a low price that everybody comes in for the eggs, right, that are low at Costco but expensive everywhere else, and then they just buy everything else while they're at Costco anyway. So Costco seems to be basically recession-proof. So I'm watching Costco and Target as well because their stock took quite a dive before. I feel like they're gonna the investors have already accounted for some of the drop in sales. But I'm gonna go with Costco because I think they're recession proof. But what do you got, Dave?
Well, I think that's a great idea since Costco, like some stocks, it's a safety stock. It's not gonna go down. So and if it will go down, it will always go back up. So that's a good stock idea. I'm gonna do the exact same thing as last time. I'm gonna go with Palantir because I feel like it went down more. But this time, it wasn't just it was the entire market, so it wasn't even its fault. I feel like now it can start going back up, presuming something else doesn't happen again, and then it'll be fine.
I love this. I love this about you. I almost can't wait until you're 21 and we're going to Vegas to gamble because once you're down at the blackjack table, you're going to say, well, my luck's got to turn around. I'm going to keep playing. So I do like what you're doing here. You're saying, hey, look, I'm trying to time the bottom of Palantir. I didn't quite hit the bottom last week. Maybe I can get it this week. So I respect it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Anything else, David? This was a fun one.
No, I think that's all.
All right.
Well, we'll see ya.